Hello, Jean-Claude Spurt here, and if the thing that really gets you going is Android tablets with e-ink displays, well, splash-proof pants at the ready, because today we're checking out the fresh new Boox Note Air 5C. Now this is a, shall we say, casual evolution of the Note Air 4C which came before it, gently improving on some of the specs and features. Certainly not enough to warrant an upgrade if you've already got that Note Air 4C, unless you're absolutely minted, because here in Blighty it's once again £500, over in the States it's 500 Trump monies. Been playing around with the Boox Note Air 5C for a few days, so here's my early review, and for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe, ding that old notifications bell. Cheers! Now, as always, one of the things I love the most about the Boox Note Air 5C is the fact that you've got this beautifully slender aluminium body. Now, it's a 10.3 inch tablet, and you've got this big old chunky bezel over to the left side of the display as well, so it can't really be described as compact, but the fact that it's so slim means it slips effortlessly into a backpack or a big enough bag. And more importantly, it's pleasingly lightweight at just 440 grams, so I had no problems whatsoever holding this thing up over my face when I was reclining in bed, enjoying a bit of late night reading. And when I inevitably drift off and the thing ends up smacking me full in the face, waking me up again, at least it's not hefty enough to do any proper damage. I think my face is probably weathered enough. And the design, very similar to the previous generation, just a couple of wee changes, including the old pogo pins down at the bottom here for the optional keyboard case you can slap on here. That is one of the big new features for this generation. The Note Air 5C now supports a keyboard cover, which you can order as well optionally from Boox. It doesn't come bundled with the Note Air 5C, sadly. And I don't have one to test, so I haven't been able to check out that, one of the biggest new features. Apologies. But hey, this tablet does come bundled with a stylus and also a magnetic case. That's pretty straightforward stuff. Just slap your Note Air 5C into there, it magnetically attaches, holds pretty firm. And then when you open up this cover, it will wake up the Note Air 5C, shut it again, and it will hibernate the tablet. And also if you slap the stylus on the side, that is magnetically held in place as well. And then you get this wee clasp type thing which you can stick over there just to hold it extra securely in place. And this cover also doubles as a nifty stand if you want to prop this tablet up either in portrait or landscape mode, although obviously you can't change the angle or anything. But the most exciting part about the cover is this time they actually remembered to cut out a wee hole where the charging port is. So when you want to charge the Note Air 5C, you don't have to flop the cover open. It's the little victories that really count. Now when you want to actually use your Note Air 5C, well, you've got a built-in fingerprint sensor in that power button, so usually a quick tap of your registered digit against that will get you straight in. Sometimes it takes a couple of taps. It's not the best fingerprint sensor I've used, but generally reliable-ish. And the software slapped on here, good bit of Android 15 in a completely unrecognizable state, of course. Now the fact that it's running Android 15 means that the Note Air 5C is considerably more up to date than any other Boox device I've used in recent times. Although, as always, who knows when/if it'll ever get an upgrade to the latest, freshest Android 16. I still use a couple of my older Boox devices from time to time, and they've received a few firmware updates over the years, but I can't recall any of them actually getting an upgrade as far as the OS goes, possibly due to hardware constraints. But I rather like that Boox UI. It's pretty easy to get to grips with. Basically all your apps are slapped there on the desktop. You can stick some shortcuts to your favorites down there at the very bottom. You've also got fast access to your most recently read books or documents, and also your most recent notes. And as always, whether you're reading a book or you're in an app or whatever, you can drag down the old control center at any time, activate various features, change the screen brightness and also the color temperature, which is quite handy in the evenings. You do have a small selection of first-party apps, file management, dictionary, etc, etc. You've also got your own web browser, although to be honest I just tend to use Google Chrome, because the good news is you've got full Google Play Store access, so you can download basically any Android app you like. I remember back in the day the Boox UI was a bit of a ball ache. You had to enable the Play Store and jump through all these hoops to get it running just the way you wanted, but these days literally just sign in with your Google account, job done. So you can get fully kitted out with all your usual Google shenanigans. The only first-party apps I tend to use are Notes and the library as well, which is excellent. The Note Air 5C, like previous Boox devices, supports a huge range of documents. We're talking EPUBs, docs, PDFs, Mobies, yada yada. And good old CBZs as well, great news if you are a fan of graphic novels and comics. No buggering about for compatibility, it all just loads up perfectly and just works exactly as you would expect. When you're reading a book, you can just, as usual, tap or swipe in order to advance through the pages. Otherwise, you've also got some physical buttons here on the right edge which can be used to flip the pages as well. And I do wish that those buttons were positioned slightly further down the edge just to make it a bit more comfortable. It's not the best arrangement in the world having to reach all the way up here, although sadly that edge is also where the stylus magnetically snaps onto, so I guess that's why they're wedged all the way up there. Because as it is, when you slap that stylus on there, there's not exactly a huge amount of room in between the pen and those buttons. And sadly, no, I still can't get these buttons to actually work in the Kindle app, which is really, really annoying. Even when I tinker around with the customization in the settings, absolutely refuses to turn those pages, so you are swiping all the way. Now, the Boox Note Air 5C sports a mere 64 gigs of storage, which fills up fast, certainly if you're a graphic novel fan. Some of these books take up basically a gig by themselves. Certainly the larger compilations, although just standard books, obviously a lot smaller than that. But as usual, I've hoid in 10 gigs of free cloud storage space with your Note Air 5C, which is pretty handy for syncing notes and documents and the rest. And you've also got a bit of micro SD memory card support if you do need to boost it in a jiffy. As usual, however, bugger all SIM support, so when you are downloading files, uploading files, etc., you are relying on Wi-Fi. Thankfully, the Wi-Fi connectivity seems absolutely fine. I managed to download about a dozen massive graphic novels in, I think it was about 5 minutes over my home Wi-Fi, so can't complain there. As for the 10.3-inch e-ink display, well, this is billed as a Kaleido 3 screen, same as the previous couple of generations, and for me it's an absolute banger. Specs-wise, seems to be the same, so resolution 300 ppi for black and white images, 150 pixels per inch for color images, which is perfectly fine for your graphic novels, comics, etc. Plenty of fine detail packed into every frame and tiny text perfectly legible. The color output is the same as before. You got 4096 tones in total supported. Obviously not as bright and vibrant and vivid as what you would get with an OLED panel or even an IPS panel really, but it does help to bring the likes of graphic novels to life. And as well as choosing between various presets, of course, as always, in the display settings, you can fully tweak the contrast and the color settings to suit your own personal preferences. And the good news is those front lights are super, super bright. So if you max this thing out, as you can see, between the powerfully bright front lights and the matte finish of that e-ink display, this can counter pretty much any glare. So we've now got the fierce studio lights beaming directly on this thing. All the text is still perfectly legible. But as usual, you've got eye comfort features slapped in here as well, and you can manually tweak the color temperature as well. Filter that blue light for an easy on-the-eye experience for the evenings. And certainly Boox's screen refresh tech has improved considerably over the years. It used to be pretty cack back in the day, but it's so much better now, to the point where you only see the tiniest bit of ghost, and usually when you're flicking around in the UI, even then it's barely noticeable really. And the screen refresh and responsiveness also good enough for browsing the web on the fly. Obviously, again, not as smooth as what you would get on a regular tablet or a smartphone, but still more than good enough. And sure, the refresh can just about handle simple video action as well. I would literally just maybe limit it to YouTube or something. I wouldn't kick back with a Netflix show on this thing, that's for sure. But at least it's not just a foggy, mushy mess like it used to be on older Boox devices. And yes, you also have built-in stereo speakers of sorts. There's just two little speaker grills down here on the left edge. In those 15 years, I got married and had a kid and well and truly capitulated in my battle against hair loss. That's why I'm sticking to the strategy of constant heavy drinking. So not exactly the most impressive stereo output in the world, but it's there in a pinch if you need it for, you know, viewing a video or whatever. And kinda tinny and crap, but they'll just about do the job. There's bugger all headphone jack as usual, but you do have Bluetooth streaming support, which, to be honest, best used if you are going to be using a bit of Audible or listening to audiobooks on some other streaming service. And Boox has kindly bundled an EMR stylus in the box with the Note Air 5C. complete with a special secret compartment for spare nibs. And it has to be said, I'm certainly no artist. I basically have zero creative talent whatsoever, but I do really enjoy scribbling on this thing. It's perfect for notes taking. You got that lovely tactile feeling when you scribble on the surface there. It does really feel like you are scribbling on paper. And absolutely bugger all latency, as you can see there. And full support for handwriting recognition, etc. as well, although it doesn't really work for me because my handwriting is frankly awful. It kind of looks like somebody sellotaped a pen to a squirrel that was in the middle of an epileptic fit. And when you're done with the stylus, just slap it there on the edge. You've got this magnetic connection, which is pretty stable. Usually takes quite a lot of violence to shake it loose. As for the performance, well, apparently it's an upgraded Qualcomm chipset running the show compared with the older Note Air 4C. And I found that generally flipping around the UI is nice and nippy. When you do load up a book, sometimes it takes a couple of seconds to load up, but then once you're actually in there, flipping through the pages, again, reasonably swift and responsive. And that's even with quite a dedicated refresh on the go. And loading up apps can certainly take a second or so as well. But, you know, a little bit of patience, and overall it is quite speedy compared with a lot of other e-ink tablets that I've tested out. But of course, one of the major benefits of that e-ink display, besides the easier on the eyeballs experience, is the fact that it means you've got a stellar battery life here on the Boox Note Air 5C, as with previous devices. And of course, the exact battery life that you get out of this thing will depend on various factors, mostly what settings you've got the screen set to, but I personally found that on about the sort of medium brightness level, I could get approximately 16 hours of non-stop reading out of this thing. That's with graphic novels as well. A similar sort of battery life for notes taken and the rest as well. If you are using apps like YouTube, of course, that's going to drop that battery life quite considerably to a handful of hours. And again, no real upgrade in this department at all compared with the previous tablet. It's once again the same capacity battery, 3,700 milliamp hours. So there you have it, my lovelies. That's what I reckon of the Boox Note Air 5C. Certainly an incremental upgrade. Would have been nice to have tested out the keyboard cover, as that's one of the major new features here. But certainly I was more than happy with everything else. I really like the Boox UI. It's great to see Android 15 on this thing as well, so it is considerably more up to date. The performance was pretty decent, again, for an e-ink tablet. The stylus that's bundled in there is excellent. So an ideal travel companion for anyone who wants to kick back with some books, some graphic novels, and do a good bit of note taking and scribbling on the side. Anyway, that's what this knackered old northern ninny reckons. It'd be great to hear your thoughts on the Boox Note Air 5C down below. Please do plug subscribe and ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest tech, and have yourselves a ruddy, wonderful rest of the week. Cheers, everybody. Love you.